Hello, everyone. Welcome back to SureFire Live. I'm your host, Mark Stoner, and back to you again this week with a very exciting new product that a lot of people have been talking about. It's the PriorFire retrofit fireplace, a little hard to say. And they have decided to be on the show with us tonight, so I'm excited to interview them. And they came to my shop recently and did one of the first training sessions on it, and we got to film it live. It is on SureFire. It will be, I should say, it will be on SureFire. The whole course, we filmed it. It will be on in the 1st of May. So if you're a SureFire subscriber, you can see the whole course front to back, and they're going to show you how we do it. So with that, I'm going to bring on the guys that are responsible for this. Here they come. I got to take my logo off so it's not over Chris's face.
I know, it's like a superhero.
Hey guys, welcome to the show.
Hey man, thanks for having us. We're excited to be here.
So I know you guys have been dear friends of mine for many, many years, and I think most people are watching will know who you are. But if I would just like you guys to start with John and Chris. Who are you guys? Where do you come from? And tell everybody about yourself.
Well, I'm from Mars, and I think Chris,
I'm from Venus. Yeah.
Right. I think you wrote a book about you guys.
So I'm CEO of Saver Systems. We make a lot of chimney-related products, heat shield, chimney saver, and then we've been doing this for 30 some odd years. We've been doing this, and Chris and I have kind of hooked up in the last 4 or 5 years. We each had some ideas, and we wanted to kind of pursue. And Chris, you can introduce yourself for anybody.
Yeah, I'm Chris Pryor. I've been doing this stuff for 40 years, I guess, something like that. And,
so you got an engineering background.
Yes, I do.
And he's kind of chosen to practice masonry. I would consider him a master mason.
Still practicing.
Yeah.
Well, Chris, I think you're humble for this broadcast, and I know you're not used to patting yourself on the back, but
I know I can't reach anymore. Like arthritis is too much. I can't pat. Sorry.
Well, Chris is one of the best master masons in this whole industry, and he basically, I took a class from you in 2006.
Yeah, that was a long time ago.
And we stayed in like dorms, I think, for the Pennsylvania Guild, and I learned. Yeah, that was great. So let me bring on Stuart. Stuart, what's your role here in this game?
Well, I tell you what. First off, greetings, Earthlings. I'm from Saturn. But so for the last
Uranus.
for the last 17 years, I've been lucky enough to be employed by Saver Systems and get to hang around guys like these. So,
what's your role in the company?
I'm the sales guy. I'm the Northeast Territory sales manager.
So you guys have been on the road a lot lately, showing this plan. So John, do you want to take over? Do you want to share your screen? And I say before you do that, let's just tell everybody what you guys have developed, and then we'll go into the details. So John or Chris, what are we talking about here?
Well, it's a retrofit system based on my fireplace design, and it departs from pretty much everything else that's out there. It's a complete unique approach using very high-tech materials, and try to make it as idiot-proof as possible, and something that's been engineered to death, so to speak. And it all I can say is it just loves to burn. It really loves to burn.
So we're going to get into that. Why? Let me ask you this. Actually, this is a two-way conversation. I just want to throw out this. Ted Katita says hi, guys, and
hey,
Chad also says hi.
Hey,
guys.
Ted, how are you, buddy?
Miss you.
Ted's one of my favorite people on the planet.
Yeah, that's
He's
for
amazing.
sure. That's for sure.
He is hilarious. So let me ask you this. Why? I know you've been working on this design for a very long time, Chris. Why? What problem does this product address?
Oh, a good number of problems, actually. I mean, first and foremost, if you have combustibles in proximity to the masonry, which is probably almost every fireplace that you see out there, we're listed at 4-inch nominal to combustibles from the sub hearth to the chimney cap. So that addresses an awful lot. And the combustion system that we have designed into this, it's an amazing display of flame, and it's an extremely clean burning. The emissions are like minuscule on this thing, and it vents incredibly easy, very tall flames, throws out heat like crazy, and a lot of that is due to the high-tech material that it's made out of. It's quite the reflector. So again, pleasure. It just loves to burn. It's so problem-free, easy to operate that it really solves a whole bunch of problems that would typically found on the fireplaces out in the field.
So I think, John, we were talking about it, but before we came on, that one of the things is it handles the clearance to combustibles issues, but you were also talking about really a whole nother sign of things that are a side of it, that it addresses other things that the standard American inefficient fireplace has problems with.
Well, I mean, it's 2 or 3 times more efficient. It has significantly less emissions. So, a lot of fireplaces just kind of look bad and don't perform well. So this, I think, solves a lot of those problems for people. If you really want to just upgrade a fireplace and have something that really works beautifully, this is a great way to do that. So it's not just for clearance issues, it's for people that really want to, burn less wood, add value to their homes, and just enjoy their fireplace a lot more.
So you guys have been traveling all around the country. Maybe, Stuart, you can answer this. You've been setting up a lot of in-person trainings, a lot of demos. What's been the response?
Overwhelming. So I start wondering about, how are we going to possibly deliver all these units? But, the big things is like John was saying and what Chris was saying. But the first thing is that, a lot of people are looking at this thing and saying, you don't have to have clearance to combustibles for something like this, problems for that. If you just want to upgrade a fireplace and actually make it a room heater instead of just something that looks nice when it burns, then this is probably the product for you. The thing that I hear quite a bit is the hearth extension and the plywood and stuff like that we see underneath there, and that solves those problems as well. So it's really pretty cool to think about a zero clearance fireplace from the hearth to the chimney cap.
Yeah, that's amazing. So, John, I'm going to let you take over. There's a couple questions coming in, but I'm going to hold those questions till after or till most of the way through your presentation. And John, I'm going to share your screen.
Okay.
And let's see here. We're going to, I'm going to go ahead and remove us out of this so you have the full screen. So, John, go ahead. We can see your screen. And
Good.
Okay, you can't see me, but I can see the screen there. So you're all looking at the PowerPoint. So
yes,
this is kind of a picture of it burning, and
this was actually at UL.
Yeah, this was actually taken out of the UL fireplace. Yep. So you see the cast iron log retainer up in the front. You see the bricks, and so Chris and I basically for years would get together, have lunch at the conventions, and say we talk about different ideas we both had. So a lot of this developed from napkin drawings, just sitting around and dreaming. And so we decided it was really, we had to do something because we both had all this stuff in us. We had to get it out. So we created what we call the Wardenclyffe Hearth Lab. There's a reason for the name, but so that was because there just wasn't a lot of testing done on masonry fireplaces. You can't put a masonry fireplace in a box and ship it. So a lot of manufacturers hadn't really done anything. There's not been a lot of testing on masonry fireplaces. So uh, there's kind of a history of fireplace testing, and you can see that over the last 400 years, there's been very little testing on masonry fireplaces.
The most significant was in the 1930s, done by Professor Rosen. That was probably the most scientific, specific fireplace type of testing that's been done in a long time.
That's amazing.
It is. I mean, like in the 90s, the Masonry Heater Association and a few other organizations, the Wood Heat Alliance, as it was known at the time, and then middle 90s Omni Labs. They primarily emissions for those. They really didn't get involved terribly in just the actual working and making fireplaces behave properly and all. So like I say, that one test in the 30s is probably the real standard for sure.
So, right. That's been over 70 years, 85 years or so. So, I mean, it's just, so we felt like it was time to kind of resurrect, there's a lot of technology has changed, and we've learned a lot from the other testing. We thought we could bring a few things together that hadn't been brought together yet to really improve masonry fireplaces. So one of the things that we did was we built, and we'll show you here in a minute, you can see our test rigs. Chris and I built 2 test rigs, and if we outfitted them with, we can measure flue gas, we can measure thermocouples, we can measure emissions on these fireplaces. So Chris can talk a little bit about some of the testing.
Just a little bit of testing.
A little bit of fireplace history here.
If you picked up any book that explained how a fireplace works, this is what I would call the popular concept. And this is even something that Rumford had talked about. And essentially the theory is that, the rising hot smoke will ride the front of the smoke chamber and cling to the inner wall of the chimney. And as it rises up, cooler air comes down behind it, reflects off the smoke shelf, and kind of keeps everything in somewhat laminar flow. Right. And, like I say, that even today, that's still pretty much what most people would believe.
Right.
And then, so in the 30s, Professor Rosen, he was hired by the British Coal Utilization Board. Again, there was a lot of fireplaces over in England, and wood supplies were getting scarce, and a lot of pollution and fires and things like that. So, they pretty much hired Rosen to do a scientific study of the way fireplaces perform, basically the aerodynamics of the domestic fireplace. And, there were no supercomputers or anything like that, in the period. So what Rosen wrote a paper to prove that the behavior of water is the same as the behavior of like smoke and flame. Basically a fluid is a fluid. So the diagram you're looking at is actually it's a model of a glass enclosure that Rosen had built. And it's essentially like a fireplace upside down. You can see the movable firebox floor. So in this fireplace, there were a series of movable panels. So like they could bring the back wall in, up, down, move the smoke shelf around, move the breast area. And then, water would run through it. And the water outlet at the bottom is basically the equivalent of the chimney. And then they used like a dye stream and colored dissolved salts to kind of replicate the movement of the smoke through the system. Okay, so they did a bunch of testing. So this is kind of an illustration of the flow disturbance that was discovered by Rosen. And what he actually found out was that the popular concept of the way a fireplace works is actually contrary to what was believed. And in fact, the hot gases rising want to travel up the back wall of the fireplace, and then cool air from the room wants to kind of choke in along with it and ride up the front. And there was really no downward flow at all. And
Right.
you know, that smoke shelf, like you can see in the illustration, the back of that damper blade, you know, in his fluid testing, you know, that was an area where you would get a tremendous eddy, and there was a lot of turbulence right there. And in some cases, if the geometry is just right, that turbulence is almost like an invisible obstruction. You know, it's so violent that very little gas can move freely around it, and your fireplace smokes. Yet you look up there, and everything looks clear and open. So it's just kind of interesting how everything we've believed for all these years is actually contrary to fact.
That's fascinating.
So Rosen played around with the model and kept changing and moving things until he got a really nice laminar flow through it. And essentially, this is kind of the shape that he had come up with that vented the best. And you know, when you get all the turbulence out, you know, the flue size can be reduced considerably, because in like modern, you know, theory about fireplaces, the flue sizes of, you know, 10-1 and 12-1 are so large, because not only do they have to vent the smoke that's coming off the fire, but they also have to overcome all the turbulence that takes place too. So you get rid of the turbulence, you know, you can, you know, vastly reduce the size of the flue. And again, you have a lot of less air being expelled up the chimney, and especially as tight as houses are today. That's a major benefit.
Yeah, good point.
So yeah. This is our lab, you know, and
Yeah, this is one fireplace that we have in there. I think that was.
yeah, it's the
So
right
we
hand.
built. So what we did is we actually built. Those actually both have our units in them. We built two fireplaces. This is actually two pictures of the same fireplace, but you can see that we built them just according to the basic tech spec, you know, standard American fireplace.
From the Brick Institute, yeah, that's tech spec 3.
And then we tested it for emissions. We tested it for safety. We tested it for using the same parameters as UL would test for safety. We tested for emissions based on an ASTM standard, and we also tested for emissions and safety essentially, and efficiency too.
Yeah. So again, we have the flux capacitor there.
You see our flux capacitor
and our Mr. Fusion.
So
What are we looking at?
That's the control panel inside the lab there.
we added a few features to it. I mean,
So
we had a time machine too.
well, yeah, if we blew a test, we could go back in time, so we wouldn't have to, you know, make more fuel loads. But
so this is the gas. This is an oxygen.
that's a carbon dioxide analyzer that we have. That's
these are the thermal. Can you see my mouse pointer?
Yeah, I can see your pointer.
okay. Yeah, those are the thermal. That's
So
the,
that's a lab
data
jack.
reader. Yeah,
So
it reads all the thermal.
I think there's 56 thermocouples on each fireplace, and then this is a variac for pulling. On this device, it kind of looks like two peach cans put together. There's actually a filter in between them, and then you pull a negative pressure on this as you're burning, and then that
it actually pulls a sample of the flue gas at 12 pascals through a 5-inch diameter filter that sits between the two layers of that looks like a peach can there. So during the emissions test, you know, you basically weigh the filter before the test, and then you know, at the end of the test, you know, you weigh it, and that'll tell you what the accumulation of particulates are.
Yeah,
and then with all the other gas analyzers and things, you know, you can actually punch out a number, you know, that tells you what the emissions were for that.
Did you build that to your own? Is that your own design, or is that something that you had to build to somebody else's specs?
Actually, what that is, it's actually a unit. It's called a Condor. It's a portable dilution tunnel, and it was developed by Skip Barnett at Omni Labs in Oregon. And you know, so this is there's probably 20 of them that were built. And, with my association with the Masonry Heater Association, we were able to get one of them. So that's a pretty cool thing. One thing, though, just to say quickly, okay, put that next picture on there. See, now you can see the backside of the two fireplaces with all the thermocouples and everything. And that plywood is painted flat black on the inside and is actually Tapconned right to the masonry as per UL 907 and 127. And one thing that's really interesting, right? We built the design for these two fireplaces right out of the Brick Institute Tech Spec 3.5. It tells you for a specific width opening what the height is, the depth, the width of the back wall, how far it comes up before it slopes forward, the depth of the smoke shelf, what size angle irons, damper frame. And the long and the short of it is that when we ran the safety test that UL does for like factory built fireplaces and our unit and some of the other retrofit units out there, the North American fireplace failed miserably. I mean, it was not even close how poorly they designed, how they worked, and based on how we're being taught to build them. So
yeah, I think all of us in the maintenance world can believe that. We know how poorly they perform just from the chimney sweep side of things.
Sure. But I mean, the combustibles, like especially underneath, the temperatures that we were getting at a depth of 4 inch were the way it is at UL, if any one of those thermocouples gets to the point where it's 90 degrees above the ambient temperature in the room, you fail. And we had floor temperatures that were like 700-800 degrees to fail.
Wow.
Above and beyond. I mean, it's just incredible. So again, that's something else that prompted us to try and come up with a product that would solve a lot of these problems.
So all these thermocouples are essentially hooked up to this computer, which is hooked up to another computer, which is a spreadsheet. And this will just go through and automatically read each thermocouple every 5 minutes or how often you set it to read, and then it just fills in a spreadsheet. So each one of these is numbered on the spreadsheet. So if number 27 would spike, we could go over here and follow that. See, okay, that's
exactly
this thermocouple here. And so and this is the spreadsheet that we built. This is
actually the emissions calculator that we designed, and it's based on the ASTM 2558 fuel protocol, and that's part of the BurnWise, the voluntary fireplace emissions program.
Yeah.
So it's done with crib wood, and essentially there's like 2 kindling cribs. I think we have pictures of that, and then three fuel cribs. We didn't. Oh, I thought I added it. But at any rate, so this you basically, you have to plug in, you have to weigh all the wood, take the moisture content of it, weigh the filters, and then you've got anything that's in the green or values that we plug in, and then it does the calculation, and at the end it'll spit out a number, like the emissions factor in grams per kilogram, the emission rate, the grams per kilogram of particulates that we collected on the filter, and then it gives you, let's see, get grams per kilogram of carbon dioxide, and then finally a pretty accurate overall efficiency number. So it's like I say, this took quite a bit of time to develop. Oh, here we are. So this is that ASTM 2558 fuel protocol, and the picture there shows the various kindling 1, 2 and fuel 1, 2, 3, and they're designed to burn terrible. It's funny, I know the fellow that actually designed the wood for this test, and those 4x4s have to be between 20 and 25% moisture content. we actually have to store the wood in a humidifier at 90% humidity to maintain them at 25%. And the kindling cribs are, typical 10%. So, I mean, it is a lousy fire. And the way they nest together, there's not a lot of air. They purposely want it to burn like crap.
So it produces a lot of smoke. So
Yeah.
you can get some efficiency, or you can get the particulates that you need to measure.
Yeah.
Right.
So
Jeremy Biswell says you dudes are chimney nerds.
Yeah. Well, it's either this or be in jail because I like fire just a little too much. So just keep me out on the street. So that's good. So in the next picture, okay, that's the two halves of that portable dilution tunnel, and where my index finger and the blue glove is. That's an actual filter from the test. So at the end of the test, you snap apart this dilution tunnel. And that's like resting against a screen. So almost like dragging on a cigarette, the whole time there's a vacuum pulling flue gases from center flue through that filter. And then again, we weigh the filter at the beginning of the test, you weigh the filter at the end of the test, and that tells you what your particulate capture was.
Wow.
So check this out. This is like, if there's a description of night and day, I would say this is it. The filter on the left, that's, we ran probably 20 different emissions tests, hot start, cold start, like low pressure day outside, high pressure day. And that was pretty average for the actual North American, here's how you build it, boys, fireplace. Then we did the same exact test on our retrofit unit, and that's the filter on the right. I mean, we reduced the filter capture by close to 80%.
That's amazing.
I mean, it's amazing. Like I say, that is night and day. So this is
quick question. Ted, continue to ask, did you test with different size flues?
Everything was tested on the same.
Everything.
Flue?
Yeah. We didn't reduce the flue. Matter of fact, we did very little to the smoke chamber. We essentially put our unit in there and just sort of blended it into the existing smoke chamber and the existing flue. If this was, we will be retesting this again now that we've got, our own smoke chamber and all of that. I mean, I'm sure it's going to be even better. The combustion will even be, more intense, I think, for sure. So
yeah, you don't want to have too many variables, right? But,
yeah.
So this, getting into the design of the unit that Chris and I came up with, I'd say it's 80% Chris and 20% me. But anyway, here's the so Chris can talk about kind of some of the unique features of this unit.
Well, the other thing too that's kind of interesting, I know when we were talking about the history a little bit, is that with like some of the original, when Rosen presented his paper, he wasn't a builder, he was a scientist. So it was like, okay, boys, here you go, build one. And the first one to actually do anything with the information was a fellow named Bell from Holland. And he was known mainly for making ceramics. I know he's the one that, the Delft china, everybody's grandmother has those plates with the white plates with that dark, like the cobalt blue scenes of this and that on them. I mean, that's kind of what they did. So he actually crafted some molds and, did a precast version of Rosen's shape. And one thing that happened was that to really follow Rosen's shape, everything kind of tails off to the back. And what they found was when they set the smoke chamber on this thing, that it kept falling over backwards because, it was like trying to defy gravity. So what they ended up doing was, instead of having it tail off to the back like it's supposed to, it just, they made it come up plumb. And it was still, and the other thing with Rosen was that, as the back wall rolls forward, it's supposed to be a mirror image. It should roll back to the exact same plumb point. And like there. So what they found, it was still a little top heavy. So they brought the top of the unit, instead of as a mirror image, they moved that forward 2 inches to help the thing be a little less, to be more stable.
Right.
So, and then from that, everybody kind of cloned it, one after the other. And, so it's kind of interesting that everybody cloned a mistake. So, I actually got a hold of a copy of that original paper. It was in a library up in Montreal. And, I discovered that, in fact, it's supposed to be a mirror image and be a continuum of that angle all the way to the flue. So that's essentially the way we designed this. And another feature is that, from, my involvement with the Masonry Heater Association and the emission testing that we've done there for the last almost 20 years, one thing that came out of it was the dirtiest way to burn a fire is with a grate and having under fire air coming into it. That it was actually far more efficient combustion if you brought in over fire air and injected it into the fire over various heights within the combustion chamber. So that's essentially what we did here. There's actually an air cassette on the bottom, like a manifold where the air comes in, those little blue arrows. And then there's a plenum that rides up the back wall. So when our fireplace, there's no mortar joints in the back wall. So the air is actually injected into the fire through all of the head and bed joints. And because of the shape, it's almost like the wing of an airplane. So as the air's moving up, it accelerates very rapidly to kind of go out and around to get back to to the direction it wants to head. So you get amazing adhesion and very, very tall flames. So as the flames are riding up the back wall, they're actually siphoning that preheated air out and into the fire. So, the combustion is absolutely amazing. And the floor is actually insulated. So, there's no under fire air. With that little heat dam at the front, that combustion chamber, there's no air entering through the coals. So, it's an amazing combustion that takes place.
So on the floor, you literally could put this thing. Well, we're going to retest with. I think I'm sure we could probably pass with just a 1/2 inch Durarock underneath this thing.
Yeah, I know. We're going to retest it at 2.5 inches. Actually,
so this right here, and we've got a number of patents on this whole unit and the clip system, which is very unique. It allows us to do the back wall
shortly.
But there's 3/8 inch, 12-pound density insulation here, and there's
3/4.
And then there's 2 3/8 inch layers of 12-pound density insulation here. Plus, you've got a 1 inch airspace.
Wow. It's dynamic. It's a dynamic airflow. So it's like very cool temperature wise and cool also, of course. But temperature cool underneath and behind it. And then the figure on the left kind of shows the radiation pattern. So you get, again, radiation is always perpendicular to the surface. So that diagram on the left, you see where you're getting radiation down into the fuel bed, and then it's throwing radiation at your ankles, at your knees, and at your chest. So you get it's a pretty good spectrum of radiation pattern that gets thrown out into the room.
So the other thing that's kind of cool about this, we use a low mass masonry units. So we're using a pressed brick from Germany. It's pressed vermiculite. I think it's
7,000 psi. It's real high density stuff, but it's got low conductivity. So instead of having a high mass material that's constantly absorbing heat and then ultimately gets saturated and will start throwing heat out. There's hardly any conductive heat loss at all through the material. So, you take a cold unit light 6 pieces of newspaper and stand in front of it, and you'll actually go, whoa, the amount of heat that comes out of it. So it's all the heat's all on the upfront end of the fire. You're getting heat instantly, and then like at night after the fire burns out and the coal bed finally dissipates, in a matter of hours it's going to be pretty much cool again. So you're not like have this hot radiating mass that's trying to throw heat back through the rest of the masonry structure all night. It's pretty much all the radiation is pushed out into the room. There's no real absorption.
So you get so consequently you can burn very small fires with a lot less wood and get a nice tall flame and a lot more heat from the unit.
And with that little heat dam in the front, it serves to prevent under fire air. It also reflects heat back into the combustion is amazing, but it kind of eclipses a good, foot or more of the hearth extension, which is another reason we passed UL with such incredible numbers. It actually protects what would normally be a very, very sensitive area of the hearth extension in terms of, heat getting through.
Now the floor brick in this thing are actual medium duty fireplace splits.
Yeah,
they're actual brick.
Yeah. Okay. That's because you get wear and tear.
And they sit directly on the insulation. You don't use a grate with this.
And there's no mortar on the floor.
So you just build a top burn fire, and there's no mortar in the back wall.
What's across the front in that dam? Is that a regular fire brick, or is that some of the compressed?
No,
it's got the low mass brick in it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. That's amazing.
So this is kind of an illustration of some of the parts to it, but the whole thing is put together with a really unique fastening system. And I know one of the hardest things with building a fireplace is keeping everything plumb, level, true, joints lining up, uniform joint size and so on. And you need a pretty high skill level to really have it come out precisely. So here we actually have a clip system where there's like a metal exoskeleton, and then those vertical tubes that you see there, there's actually a clip that snaps onto those tubes.
This is the clip.
Yeah,
here.
all the brick are grooved, and there's a little drop pin. So what the clips do is they set the joint space. They hold the brick plumb into position, and they even set the head joint thickness so it's all proper. So you can literally build the whole thing in about 2 hours. And you don't mud the sidewalls as you go. You build it dry, and then when you're all done, you would grout it like it's a backsplash. And then,
let me ask Stuart a question real quick. You guys have been showing people how to put this together the last several weeks. How quickly do people pick up on this, and how quickly are they able they get it? I watched how it happens.
Actually, Stuart, you should answer that because you've been on the road with it. I would say very quickly, but what do you say, Stuart?
Extremely, extremely quick. And I would just say for the business owners that are listening here, what we basically did is we can take your most experienced mason if you have a mason, and then we can take your newest guy if he's only been there for a month. And with a half hour of instruction, we can give both of these guys a kit, put them in separate rooms, and when they get done building it, there will not be a difference in quality between the build of the master mason and the brand new guy. And that's what people are like going, oh my God, because it takes care of the plumb. I mean, if you can make a couple simple measurements before you start actually really putting the brick in, the fastest guys did it in an hour and 9 minutes, Mark.
And the whole box, they put the whole box together in an hour and 9 minutes?
Yeah.
Oh my God. So quick, Dave Levitt said, looks like a great product, guys. I was lucky enough to attend what I believe was the first ever actual install in North Andover, Massachusetts, with Stuart as a teacher. Great class, Stuart.
That was actually the first one that went into a working fireplace, and that was at, let me give a shout out, to Billy Sweet Chimney Sweeps, who donated their space.
Working fireplace other than
what we have in the lab.
Right.
Right. Well,
Yeah. So.
Well, thank you. I just saw when I was witnessing it, I was just amazed at how quickly, like everybody was watching it going, I don't quite understand it. As soon as they put their hands on it, like in 15 minutes, they just got it, how it all worked together.
Well, and I've had a lot of guys say, I was really intimidated by some of the other products because wasn't confident enough in my masonry skills. But a lot of guys are saying, this is opening up a whole new world for me. This thing ships in about 10 boxes. The heaviest box weighs 38 pounds. So it's UPSable. And if it doesn't come on a truck with a forklift, you don't need a forklift to unload it. It solves a lot of the transportation issues. So, the whole unit weighs less than the back wall of some of the other retrofits.
Yeah. And again, we engineered this thing with like the installer in mind.
Yeah, clearly.
And, every bit of every part that went into it, it was like pretending I knew nothing, just trying to make it as easy and simple and like least common denominator as possible. So this was a pretty big engineering project. That exoskeleton was like full-time for 2 years with fabricators and CAD drawings and just going back and forth. I mean, gosh, there were times I'd fly out here, meet with the fabricator, we'd get a feeler gauge and go up, this has to go in 5/1000ths of an inch to the left, go fly home, come back again. I mean, it was like crazy. I mean, when you bolt this thing together, the frame, it is perfectly square, level, plumb and true. And that took a lot. I mean, you really have to engineer something hard to make it simple.
Everybody, without fail, that we've shown this to has said exactly that, Chris, that the engineering and the thoughtfulness, even to the point where the frame is built so that you can put the damper cable on the left or the right if you're left or right-handed. I mean, just those little tiny things like that just make this thing a real pleasure.
You need basically 2 tools that we supply to put it all together with. So a nut driver and
an Allen wrench, just pretty much. And yeah, so
and the other tool that bends the clips is built into the clips.
Yeah, we show a little close up.
Yeah, so this is another thing that's kind of interesting. This is some of the pictures of some of the testing we did at UL, and this is the fuel load for the test.
Yeah, there's 120 fuel cribs there, and this is UL 907 that we actually test to, and one of the there's 2 sizes. One size fits like the back half of the hearth, and the other fits in the front. And it's 3/4 by 3/4 Douglas fir with 1/4 inch spacing. So right there, you're looking at just shy of 200 pounds of fuel. And then we actually had to build the cribs. Okay, this is actually a picture of the flash fire test. This was after 14 hours of straight burning, where it's fueled every 7.5 minutes. The final fuel load at the 14-hour mark is they put 4 back and 4 front in all at once.
Wow.
And we did this in our lab in the control fireplace, like the North American fireplace. And when this was burning, I mean, it was chugging and like gasping for air, and everything was vibrating. We were fearful that the chimney was going to come apart. It was so violent. And this takes it just like you threw another log on. It truly is it was almost anticlimactic how easily. I'm not even gonna go to that analogy at all. I'm not gonna go there. But yeah, so it was pretty crazy.
That's amazing.
And think about that fuel. That's 1/4 inch spacing between the ones going front, back, and left, right, with 4 of them on top of each other. there's like no holes that go up through there. So this is pretty interesting.
Real quickly, Tim Smith says the PriorFire is great to watch while eating Cheetos.
Yeah.
Inside joke.
That's another private joke. Thank you, Tim. At any rate, just a quick little backstory. Our project engineer up at UL is the same project engineer that ended up testing, some of the other like retrofit products that are out there. So it was kind of cool that we had one of the same engineering team. And one thing that is in the UL 907 is that it states that if the coal bed, from adding all these fuel loads every 7.5 minutes for 14 hours, when the coal bed gets to be 1/3 the height of the opening of the fireplace, you either slow down the feed rate, or B, you shovel out the coals down to the andirons and resume the test. So after about 5 hours in, the project engineer came down and asked the head lab tech, how many times have you shoveled coals out of this thing? And he said, none. And he goes, what? He goes, none. So the engineer ended up hanging around, and we never once during that it was like 16 hours of burning, had a shovel. It burned so completely that at the end of the 7.5 minutes, when the next fuel load would go in, there was barely any flame left. It had consumed everything. So at the end of the test, we scooped up the ash that was remaining and sifted out the 4,200 brad nails holding the fuel brands together. And this is how much ash we ended up. So we started off with just shy of 200 pounds of fuel. And at the end, the ash and waste weighed 0.41 pounds.
Oh my gosh.
And look at the color. That ash, it's like it's almost sharp like glass. It's not like white and fluffy. So they were I know we're patting ourselves on the back here, but they were like blown away. They said in anything open without like a non-wood stove, they have never seen combustion like this in their life. They were really impressed by it. So I think if you can impress UL engineers, you've done something.
That's
amazing. Basically, another test they did. It was
the strength test.
So they would.
So that's like a 10-pound, 5-inch diameter log.
This is after we've done burned all for 16 hours.
Yeah. This is the next day, and they basically try to destroy it. They do that.
They do that at three different heights
at 3 different locations,
3 different angles.
Yeah.
Looks good though.
Did that scare you when they were doing that? Like, I would be nervous.
Well, we did it ourselves. We replicated this.
Well, the nice thing about having our own test lab is we can do all the tests.
Yeah,
we knew we were going to pass when we went up there.
Yeah, I was just amazed though with the thermocouples, what a margin we passed by. So that's what's prompting us to actually, since we built the test rig, we're actually going to go up there. What's it? Second week in May or something like that.
Yeah, we're going to go back up and test.
Yeah, we're going to.
We think we can do even. Well, we had so much margin. We were so far under the max out temperatures. We think we can skinny some of the. We can test to less masonry and do some other things.
Yeah. I mean, we've got the listing, so we have nothing to lose. So we want to try and maybe do 2.5-inch masonry to combustibles on the floor, and then with 1 inch less insulation around the outside and all. So, like I say, we got nothing to lose.
Real quick, there's a couple questions that have come in before we move on to the next
one.
One question from Ted: are the walls adjustable?
As far as like fitting various openings?
I think he wonders, there's some other ones that can fan out or wing out.
Well, we'll talk about that in a minute. Yeah, that's going to be that'll be up front when we get into the installation. But
we got about 10 minutes, so let's kind of blow through it. So so the adjustability. So let me go to
Let me just say this real quickly, John. We can go longer if it takes that long. If people want to watch it, we can go longer. It's up to you guys.
Well, what does your audience say? Should we leak over 5 or 10 minutes or not?
You got to see it burn. You got to see the burn video. So.
Yeah, you guys just do. This is your show. You can go as long as you want. This is network TV.
Right. Well, let's get into the adjustability afterwards. So, is that the burn video you're talking about?
Isn't that beautiful?
So that's in our lab.
Yeah, that's in our lab. That's like a generation or so old too. But anyway, yeah.
So this is a kind of a picture of just the exoskeleton that would be shipped, and this is the floor bits here. But just real quickly, you install these side trim pieces, and then the insulation package gets laid across the back. This is a gutted fireplace in our lab, and then you would put the left and right side walls in, and there's a top, and then you put this back cross brace in, and this front cross brace, and this bottom
front.
This bottom. So you basically that squares everything up.
And then the back.
And then the back goes in. So after you true everything up, you put this back wall plenum in.
Now you can move the whole thing as a unit. So you can like center it, left, right, front, back, twist it, and even level it.
And shim it up.
Yeah, you could, like, say the back left corner is low. You could take like a Wonder Bar, hold it up, put some fender washers underneath. You know what I mean? It's the whole thing moves as a unit once you get to this point here.
So then you start laying in the
there's a good shot. So the adjustability is actually at the front. And in a few minutes, I'll tell you the reasoning behind that. But so you would actually measure the width, from that front brick to the channel. And you would cut that on site to take up the various widths. So it'll fit pretty much from like 30 to 41 in width, and up to 30 inches high for the height. So that one unit will cover a really good number of fireplaces. And again, we really, when we designed and worked on this, we really didn't know how well it would be received and all. So, we're going to let the market dictate whether we, build a like a bigger version or a taller version. And one nice thing with UL, if you test the smallest one and test the biggest one, you're allowed to build anything in between without retesting. So this is a little bit about these are the sidewall clips here.
And you'll see them installed.
Yeah, there's the front clip.
So these are bent on site.
Okay, so the thickness of the clip, it's 11 gauge, which is 0.120 inches. So it's just shy of 1/8 of an inch. And, so that clip will actually snap around those vertical poles. And then the slot there is where the drop pin would fit in. Now, if you have a head joint, show the little pin again. That back. Okay, you see that little appendage that's sticking out of the pin? You bend that down, and that sets the thickness of the head joint. So that pin would bend down and be like between two brick. And the cool thing is, the tool to bend it is built right into the clip. So
that's very innovative.
3 trips. The first time we did that, we designed that, the laser shop, cut them out, and we tried bending them, and it was really hard. You couldn't bend them. So then we made them thinner, and then they were too thin. They would bend and break. So it was like there's like, Papa Bear, Mama Bear, and Baby Bear. Baby Bear was just right. So that's kind of how everything went. We'd go one way, go the other way, and find the medium. So on the picture to the right, you can see where the pole lines up with a head joint. That's where one of those appendages is bent down. So it takes all the guesswork out. Everything is 11 gauge, which is 0.120, and 1/8 of an inch is 0.125. So we're like 5/1000ths of an inch less than an 1/8. And, so those little drop pins go into the groove that is pre-cut into the brick.
So those drop pins go in.
Yeah. So there's a pin that drops to the brick below it, and then the pin sticks up above. So the brick on top
the groove would slip into
So
the
every
top of the
brick
pin.
is curved in it with a groove in the center. So it's
Right.
and this sets the spacing. So.
Yeah. Yeah. So, and all the
Wow.
brick are pre-cut. You know, they come as a package. Everything's the position of the brick is so everything's pre-stamped where it goes, and it's like I say, it's pretty. You know, as far as all the odd courses are the same, all the even courses are the same. So that's what it looks like after you put it together dry. And now, before the back wall goes in, you would actually grout it. And again, just like a backsplash, you would wet it down. You take like a silicone float. We actually developed our own cement for this. We couldn't find anything that we liked that was commercially available. So we, with the beautiful lab they have here at in the heat shield department, we actually formulated, what was this, formula number 17, I think, to get it just right. So the nice thing is the mortar's hard enough to kind of hold everything together. It only has to be like an 1/8 to 1/4 inch deep. You don't mud it up as you go. And with this formula mortar, one thing, again, we tried to engineer this with the installer in mind. One drawback to a lot of like retrofit type systems is that, if you get a crack or something breaks, you got to tear it out and replace it. Where this is completely rebuildable. So we developed the cement so you could actually take a putty knife, stick it in the joint and twist it. And, all the mortar joints will open up and you can take the clip out, grab a brick, and the mud will actually, with a putty knife, peel right off the brick without gouging or anything. So you can take it down as far as you need to, replace a broken brick, and then, put the rest of the brick, the clips back in, and then regrout it. And the
back wall goes in.
Yeah, and again, a lot of times when you like, if I was building this out of actual fire brick, and Mark, I know you've done them, is you build a back wall. The back wall lays against the side walls, so if typically the back wall goes in first. And my thought was that with homeowners throwing logs like a perfect spiral football into the back wall, that the back wall is going to take the most punishment. So we designed it so the back wall goes in last. So if you had it would come out first. So you can completely tear down and rebuild the back wall in like 20 minutes. And there's no mortar. So the picture on the right shows the clip system, because there's air coming up behind the back wall. That metal bit there is like a plenum, and the air is injected to the fire through all the bed and head joints. So the back wall, it's a one-piece clip that holds the brick in position. And we even have the clips, what we call keyhold. So the bolts that hold them in place are there. And you take the clip, slip it over the bolts, it goes right down in the brick, and you tighten it up with an Allen wrench. It really couldn't be easier. And
that's amazing.
Once you get to that, once you get the back wall built, then you add the floor bits.
Yeah. So
see, this is the air channel here. This kind of keeps the air channel open. So then that's bolted up. This is bolted up to this right here.
Okay.
And then
leave that picture on. Here's the installer of mine. That bottom left picture, you see the nut driver going straight in.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
What we found was that stud that nut went on was an 1/8 inch lower than it is in that picture, and you actually had to tip that nut driver in at an angle to try and get the nut on, and it was a pain in the butt. So we had him raise the stud up 1/8 of an inch, had the corresponding hole set up so you could go straight in with the nut driver. I mean, it was kind of fun getting down to those kind of details to make it easier to install.
Gosh.
The floor goes in, and then you put the 2 layers of the 12-pound density insulation in. Then the floor brick, which are actual splits, get dry laid on top.
Yeah, no mud on
There's
those.
no
All
mud
pre-cut. Everything's pre-cut to fit.
Then the last step is to install the log retainer across the front, the cast iron log retainer. So that's a completed unit without grout.
Yeah, that hasn't been grouted yet.
But anyway, so
I gotta say, guys, hats off to you. I can't even say it. It's amazing what you have done. How long did this take you?
well,
Let's
from
see.
napkin drawing to finished product.
Yeah, well, from napkin drawing to blowing them away at UL in 5 years, I think.
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't like we were working on it every day. We
Yeah.
were kind of ham and egg it. Chris would come out, stay a couple of weeks, and
This
go
is
back.
and this is actually the 4th version of it. The original version, we never even burned that. As soon as we got it back from the fabricator, we automatically changed it. So we had version 2, which we burned, and we showed people, and they were kind of overwhelmed or underwhelmed with the way it looked. Then version 3, we burned a lot, but this one here, this has been like, got to be what, 2.5 years of. I mean, we've had one install in our lab. We've been I don't know how many. Oh my God, at least 5 core. I've been trying to destroy that thing for 2 years.
Yeah, we just really put it through the paste.
I mean, I bang it with shovels and like I'll toss just trying to destroy it. But I'll tell you what, that log rolling bit at UL, I mean that's a 10-pound, 5-inch diameter. It's actually an oak, like a cylinder that they hollow out and put like BBs in it, like shot to get it to the weight at a 30-degree inclined plane, and it thuds into that back wall like crazy. That's after 20 hours almost of total flame abuse with it. So it's a pretty strong puppy. It really is.
To answer your earlier question, Mark, yes, it was freaking terrifying. Especially when the thing hit the sidewall. I mean, it made some crazy noises, but we didn't have any mortar dislodged. We didn't have any brick broken. It was awesome.
What? That's amazing. Gosh, let me go over a couple things, a couple questions for you guys. Well, let me ask you, is that you're finished with your PowerPoint?
Yeah, that was the Roadshow PowerPoint that we've been using. And so at the end, we just have people go out and build units. We brought 4 or 5 units with us. We set them up on tables and they could get a chance to kind of play with it.
Yeah, that was neat to see everybody just come out, stand up, and start knocking these out. There's some questions about the smoke chamber, and I know we talked about that before the show. Can you guys discuss? Scott Scraper said, "Hey, when's the smoke chamber piece going to be available?" And then Ron Clark also asked, "How does the smoke chamber kind of tie into everything?"
All right, good questions all. Let me get into the like our stainless smoke chamber, which again is a Rosen smoke chamber for a Rosen fireplace, as it should be. We don't want Ford and Chevy parts mixed together. But anyway, the one nice thing with the smoke chamber, I mean, it is amazingly compact, as it should be. Amazingly compact. I think the smoke chamber from the base to the bottom of the square to round transition is like 16 inches tall.
Wow.
Okay? Tapers in like crazy. And the nice thing is, like, if you're going to go with the stainless smoke chamber and an 8-inch liner, you would actually like put the liner and winch the smoke chamber up above where it needs to be before the firebox goes in. So the nice thing with this is once you get the frame for the fireplace installed, the smoke chamber actually mounts to the frame before the brickwork go in. All right, so that it's all tied in, everything. Now you're not reaching up through trying to do it afterward. So now you build up the brick up to the top, and the smoke chamber, when it's finished, will hover above the brickwork by about 1 inch all the way around. And the reason for that is that if you end up having to replace brick, it's actually trimmed out. There's 3 trim pieces. So in the bottom of the smoke chamber, there'll be a series of stainless studs. And there's a little stainless trim piece that bridges the gap between the brick and the bottom of the smoke chamber with stainless steel nuts on there. So it's a really nice trim transition. So if you broke a brick, you would take the nuts, take the trim pieces off, pull the clip, take whatever brick you need, put it back in, put the trim back on, done. So that's the stainless version. And then for the,
It will be ready hopefully in a couple weeks.
yeah. I know, of course it was ready and I had to make a little change. So, so everybody was mad at me, but it's going to be worth it. It's going to be so much better. So
And then the other big transition is we developed a new smoke chamber product as well. So it's listed with what's PriorFire Formula 51, which was so you basically purge the smoke chamber and then finish blend it after the unit, after you get the unit installed.
And that's listed at 1 inch thickness.
Wow. Quick, Jim Brewer says PriorFire is going to be a great product. Congratulations to Chris and John and the rest of the team. Question here, can it be used with Class A chimney?
Yes.
Okay.
You have to get a little, adapter for that, but that's the plan.
But typically it's set up, the top of the smoke chamber is set to just do single wall stainless pipe?
Yes. But again, they make transitions for that. So.
Right. One other question, can it be used as an outdoor fireplace?
No, but it can be used as a dessert topping. So. No, yes, it could be used in an outdoor fireplace. Absolutely.
I would recommend it has some sort of cover over it, like if it was in a little pavilion or, I wouldn't want it just sitting out in the middle of,
Yeah.
Right.
So to get into it, not a great thing.
Guys, so amazing. Let me ask you, who can, if somebody is not a heat shield, how can people be able to buy this, install this product?
Yeah, that's a good question. So, so this is product for heat shield dealers. We do have a program for people that aren't heat shield dealers, but they're going to pay quite a bit more for the product. And if you want to get involved with it, basically just email Stuart. Do you have his email address?
I'm going to post it right here.
Okay, so Stuart will email you. Depending on where you're located, he'll connect you with one of our territory managers. They can tell you how to get connected to this product.
I mean, it's worth becoming a heat shield dealer just to get it, I would say, for sure.
So
along with everything else, of course.
Right. So do they have to have special training for this product?
We prefer to do some kind of training with them because I think it's, like I said, once you see it, it's about 10, 20 minutes into it, it clicks in and you have so much confidence so quickly. But if you just got the box and the instructions, it would be a little more challenging. We are going to do, and I'm shooting this video in a couple of weeks, we're going to shoot, so in our instruction guide, what we're planning to do is shoot, 15, 20-second vignettes of each step.
There'll be like a QR.
There'll be a QR code next to the step in our instruction manual. So the guys in the field can just take their phone, scan it. Oh, okay, boom. So we're trying to make it as easy as we can for the installer in the field. So
wow,
we've made it a little bit easier too. We put more feet on the ground. Everybody used to have to come to Richmond, Indiana to get trained, but now we've got 3 separate territory managers and they're doing a lot of traveling. So if you're interested in this product and you want some personalized training, go ahead and send me an email and we'll get you hooked up with your guy and we'll get somebody out there.
Fantastic. When is this product available for people to start to sell it, for you guys to ship it, and what's the plan with that kind of thing? Because I know there has been problems with other products with getting the product in people's hands, and I know you guys talked about setting up.
So right now, it's going to be a couple of weeks before we're ready to start shipping these units. Once we get our pipeline up to speed, and we've got a pretty big backlog of people that are waiting right now, so first people obviously will get those, and then the people that came to the summit will kind of get the next crack at it. But essentially, in 30 days from now, once we get the pipeline, we'll have these in stock. They'll ship next day, and then they can ship on a pallet in 10 different boxes, or we can ship them, one of 10, 2 of 10, 3 of 10 in UPS. So there's so you'll get it next day. I mean, we'll ship next day.
And the heaviest single package is like 38 pounds.
It's just,
we actually had a called Hoosier Container, a packaging designer come in and designed all the packaging.
Joe, you'll
for
love the
this.
way this thing's boxed.
Oh,
So
it's
like when
amazing.
you open up a set of boxes, everything's labeled, but the first course is the first box. The first,
Yeah.
and so it's all in. You just pull it out of the box in order, and it gives you. And it gives you the first.
All
and
the
second.
left side are in one box, the right side and all the back are in a separate box. And what you need first is on top. And there'll even be, remember the old the Kodak commercial, Open Me First? It was a camera at the time. Well, there's going to be an Open Me First box that'll have all the instructions and everything else in there. And yeah, it's pretty slick. Like I say, our entire unit weighs less than like the back wall of a kind of precast type of setup. So yeah, you don't have to break your back to do it. So
man, all I can say is wow. I've seen this a couple of times, and every time you guys go into it, it's just incredible the thought that you have put for this. And our whole industry is very thankful for you guys too, because like you said, it looked like it'd been over 20 years since anybody even tested anything on a masonry fireplace, and here you guys did all this. And I wish you guys the best of luck. Anything else you guys want to add to the show before we close it out?
Just that early on, you saw the picture of it was called the Wardenclyffe Hearth Lab. That's what we had called our lab. And that's actually what Tesla's lab was called. So we built this in Tesla's honor, hoping to get some of his mojo. And I think it's actually working. We're even though he died a pauper, but still he was a brilliant soul. So this was in honor of Tesla. We called the Wardenclyffe Hearth Lab.
Stuart likes it because he's a Serb.
Yeah, he's a Serb. Right?
He's our most famous export.
Guys, you have done him honor for sure.
So,
well, thank you, guys.
Mark. Thank you
for close out the show. Thank you guys very much for joining us.
Thank you, Mark, for allowing us to be here tonight. It's been fun. We appreciate you and everything you've done for our industry.
Yeah, no doubt.
One more thing, Mark.
Yes.
So you guys, these guys up in the upper right-hand corner are very humble. But I've got to be honest with you. I went up to the UL Labs, and the UL Labs, when we were testing this, and this is where they test all the hearth products. Anybody's been up there to test. And every engineer that I came in contact with just gushed over these guys like a schoolgirl crush.
Really?
It's true. I mean, and I hate that John's probably going to get me angry because I said that, but I'm just saying it's just like, I don't know what other people do. I know I've seen this product as it came through, and all of the things that have been thought through and engineered out to the nth degree to make the end user and the product just so easy to put in. It's truly amazing, and these guys deserve all the credit for that.
Yeah, I don't think engineers are easy to impress. So for you,
not UL engineers. Let me say.
I mean, what's the adage in the industry? If you're working for an engineer, add 20%.
Yeah,
Right?
They've never been impressed with my stuff. I can tell you that. All right, guys, thank you so much.
All right,
Thank you, Mark.
Have a good evening, everyone. Appreciate it.
Thanks, everybody.
Wow. Oh my gosh. I hope you guys enjoyed that as much as I enjoyed watching them. I mean, when you see people truly in their gift and in their passion, there's just something special about it. I think we are witnessing that. So guys, that's our time for this week. Join us next week. We are going to continue to have more and more guests, and hopefully we will impress you. I don't know if we're going to impress you more, but we're going to have continued great information. We'll talk to you next week.